Before I left El Segundo, I promised some people that you haven't met yet. Enter Dave Kinney. But before I tell you who he is, I have to apologize because I've been told that I've demoted him. He is not the editor of Hagerty's Price Guide. Used to be Cars That Matter. You are the publisher and founder.
That's correct.
Yes.
I am, totally.
You have heard the term, he wrote the book. This is the man that literally wrote the book on car values.
Thank you, MotoMan.
I am part of a group, a support group for British car fanatics. And this is the leader of the group, Rob Sass.
This is not a British car, MotoMan. What's up with that?
This was inspired by a British car.
What's happened in this market has been just astonishing. Some of these cars have gone up, they've come back down a little bit a few years back, and they're back up again.
But inspired by a Jaguar E-Type. And this car, when it came out in 1967, was a pretty astonishing car because it came from Toyota, a company that was largely unknown, and the fact that Japanese cars in general in 1967 not very highly regarded.
Periscope Lamborghini. This is a Lamborghini Countach.
I haven't seen one this nice in my life.
You know those scissors doors on the Mazda that your neighbor has?
Yes.
That's where these came from.
And everything in this car is precisely put together and beautifully made. You've got wood on the inside of the car that was made actually by the Yamaha piano people. You've got a twin cam motor with a Yamaha developed cylinder head.
And what does Countach mean? Let's clean it up a little bit and say it's an Italian dialect for holy smoke.
It just absolutely came out of nowhere. It's like Spiker, just, you know, sort of popping onto the scene a couple of years ago with a supercar. Or, you know, 10 years before this car, a Spanish company called Pegaso came out with a Ferrari competitor. They just didn't have the reputation and didn't gain the following.
These cars are called Periscopa, Periscope-A, Periscopo, or Periscope, whatever you prefer, because instead of having a rear view mirror when new, they had a rear view periscope.
Literally, I can see it.
A periscope. So
I thought it was going to be the smallest sunroof I've ever seen in my life.
And you thought these were limited only to U-boats? No, it's not true. They were also on Lamborghinis. So
it's interesting because here we are, a classic car auction, and really we're kind of at the top of the market at this particular one. And we have a Toyota.
I know. The company that is probably known now for making the most generic cars on the planet. I won't even rent a Camry. You know, I can't tell you how many Camrys I've lost in big box retail parking lots.
Mid V12 engine. These cars are smoking. Now, later on, back into the 80s, or you know, when the production was going, they made a lot of these things, very similar body style. They kind of grew old and fat.
I remember the anniversary one had all the cladding on it. It kind of looked all white with white leather seats.
And that keeps the value of some of these things down. But the Periscope cars have gone crazy recently. They built way, way up. They went down again for about a year, and they're back up again. This car is the best restoration I've ever seen on one. Orange with blue interior. That's only going to happen in a few places, and Italy is one of them.
Do you think this will be a halo effect to other Japanese sports cars or just interesting Japanese cars?
You know, this is kind of one of one in the Japanese collectible world. It's really kind of the only, you know, 60s Japanese supercar. I do think you've been seeing Datsun 240Z values going up, and that was a car, you know, Datsun was paying very, very close attention to this car. They actually employed the designer of this car to do work for them, and there are a lot of styling cues in this car that showed up later in the 240Z.
It was Goetz that did this car.
Yeah, exactly. Count Albrecht Goetz, exactly.
Great car, great restoration. I'm really interested in seeing what's happening with this car. I think the low estimate is $650 on it.
Is there anything else you want to cover about this car?
Just that I want it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, this car was not worth that recently.
Oh, no. You could buy these cars, not this nice, but you could buy them for $125,000, maybe $75,000.
How much would it take you to make it look like this?
About $650,000. No, just kidding. It costs a couple $100,000 to make it look this nice.
And so a couple of years ago, it cost you a couple $100,000 to make it into a $100,000 car.
If you bought this car for $100,000 now, I mean, if you bought it then and restored it, you know, whatever, you'd still have a pretty good profit built in. So
the numbers are starting to work out on these.
Absolutely. It's quite a car.
So walk me through 10 years ago, if you could find one of these and talk the owner into parting with it, how much would it have been?
You know, 10 years ago, I think you'd be looking at $50,000, $50,000, $60,000.
Now, a little backstory here. I've known Dave for many years. When I started to follow classic cars, probably 10 years ago, something like that.
I think you're still in diapers, I'm pretty sure. They had MotoMan logos on.
Yeah. So what do you think this is going to do on Sunday?
You know, it is really, really hard to say because so few of them sell publicly. It's estimated, I think, between $400,000 and $500,000. I think that's a credible pre-sale estimate. I really do. I hope this car does. You know, I hope this car breaks $400,000. I think it deserves to.
Bet?
Little bet?
A little bet?
Sure.
What's the over/under? 400, 500?
Sure.
Okay, so
You beat the spread?
if it sells for under 400, actually no, I think it'll go over 400. Maybe.
Right. If it sells for under 400, I'll buy you a new Camry.
But I don't want a new Camry. How about this? If it sells for under 400, you buy me a BRZ.
How about I buy you a nice Kobe steak?
No, BRZ. I'll tell you what.
Okay.
You could buy me the FRS. It's a little cheaper than the BRZ.
Done.